Hi, welcome back. Different video because you get to see me on this. Usually I don't like to include pictures of me while I'm talking. Bad enough I get to hear my own voice. But we're at a point where I need to show you a few things. So right here I have the micro stick, the PIC, and the USB serial connector. Right? And what I want to do is I want to make the PIC talk to PuTTY, a terminal program on my PC, using this USB connection. To do that, I need to wire from here up to here somewhere. So we're going to need to talk a little about those details. And if we're going to be wiring, I got to tell you a little bit about wiring. So here's some ordinary wire that we work with. We're going to need a couple of lengths of wire, and it's going to be about yay long. Okay, highly technical term, yay long. Depends on where you've put your connector on your board. And we're going to need two of them. It's a good idea to have different colors because one of them is for transmitting signals from the PIC to the connector and on to my PC, or for signals to come back to the PIC. Right? So two different colors if you could. Okay. And to do wiring in your kit, we've given you this little guy, which is a wire trimmer, and you can cut wires with this. And you've been given a supply of wire. Yay! So all you're going to do is you're going to take the end, make sure you have about a centimeter of length of the wire here, and you're going to strip the plastic wire to expose the metal end, and the metal end goes in your breadboard to make the connection. So once you get it, don't hold too tightly or you'll cut the wire. Just go around a little bit and pull. I don't know how well you can see, but now I have a bare end of the wire. You're going to do that to two wires of the proper length. I've got a few of those. And when you do that, you're going to find the two pins that you have here on the board. Bring it close, blind you. You might see that on the connector, there's two pins that are called RX and TX. So we're going to connect from here, RX and TX, and connect to the proper pins on the microchip. The question is, what are the proper pins on the microchip? So I'm going to hit pause and come back in 1 second. Here's the pinout diagram for our chip. It's in your manual, and I've given you hard copies of it as well. We need to find the pins to make the connections to. Okay? If we look at these pins, we see that there's lots of names on them, and unfortunately, none of them seem to be labeled TX or RX. That's because on this PIC, what we have to do is change one of the programmable pins. These are all the programmable pins. They have names like RPA0 and RPB9. And we've got to program them such that pins 22 and 21 are our RX and TX pins. How do you do that? Well, that's a good question. Back in my configuration UART library, in the code that I provided you with, because you wouldn't know how to do it otherwise, and we'll talk about this more, I've told programmable pin RPB10 to be the TX, and I've told programmable pin RPB11 to be the RX pin. So that's how I know. I've actually told the programmable pins to be the pins that I want to use. Okay, so let me go back to the pinout diagram that I had up a second ago. Okay, so I need to connect from the RX from So my RX, which is pin 22, I'm going to stick a wire in here. I'm going to find pin 22. It's at 7. Okay. And I need to connect it to, so that's my RX. It's got to go to the TX pin on the connector. I'll just show you that right now. So here I'm back, and I've taken from RX to TX on my board, pin 7. Okay. I'm going to do the same with another one for TX. It's got to go to my RX, and RX again was pin 7. I mixed it. Okay, so my TX goes to RX, which is pin 7, and the other guy, which is pin 8 on this side. Just want to make sure I'm doing the connection right. So, taking a moment to make sure that I've connected RX on my board to TX on the connector, I get something that looks like this. I can send that again. Right? So I've done my best to make sure I've got the right connections here. Okay? But I've plugged that in like that. Okay. What I'm going to do is open up PuTTY, go to one of my last project, and get it to print to PuTTY now. Here we are here. Here's my user functions that printed out a message to the simulator. Not going to use the simulator anymore. I'm going to change it. Okay. Go to the properties. I'm going to tell it I'm using the micro stick. Apply. And OK. And I'm running at 9600. So I'm going to bring up this program. I'm going to reset the terminal. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this icon here to load the program onto the microstick. You don't see anything particular happening here, right? It's going through all the same sort of steps it did with the simulator, but instead of the simulator being opened, it's loading onto the microstick. Hold on. Yep, you'll see down here messages about how it's loading into memory. Okay. So programming verify complete. Okay. So what I should see, I call this up, it's a message like that. It's pretty messy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press the reset button on this again. So right here there's a little reset button. I press that, reset button, press that, that restarts the program, right? And every time I reset it stops and starts the program again. Okay? And you can see I must have wired it up right because I'm getting these messages to print out correctly. Okay. So brilliant, I wired it correctly. And hopefully you will have wired it correctly as well. One little thing I want to tell you, since now that we're using PuTTY, there is a little PuTTY library that we're going to include. So I'm going to add an existing item. And I'm going to go up to comment. And there's a file putty.h and a file putty.c. And it's a small library. And in that small library, there's something for cleaning the screen. So I'm just going to take clear putty here, Control C, go back in here, and before the message, I'm just going to clear the screen when I use it, and come up here, Control C, make sure I got putty included. And that's just really helpful when I do these programs, because I always want a clean screen to print to. So let's go through. While that's going, I'm going to call up the PuTTY window so you can look at it at the same time. You'll notice that there's like hiccuping to the screen. That's typical with the microchip. It's generating almost repeats of what used to be on it to the screen. And you saw it cleared the screen and printed out the number. I'm going to hit the reset button again, and it clears the screen very fast. It's hard for you to see it. So cool. So the clear PuTTY is one way to keep your terminal window on your PC nice and clean. That's it for now. Thank you.